Food Service Power Plant Network. Holy smokes, we got a special edition tonight. I'm sitting here with Mark Freeman of LinkedIn. Mark's joining us tonight. We are in Denver, coming to you live from the SHFM conference at the beautiful Sheridan. Sheridan has these cool little rooms we can rent because the lobby and the bar are right the other side of this computer, and it's hopping right now. We're so glad you joined us every Monday night. Listen, a huge thanks to people who help make this possible. The Zumba team, FENS Magazine. I saw Renee today here from Zumba, and certainly Craven Company for believing in these positive mindset tools and messages and the stories that we share tonight. We have a former SHFM past president, Mark Freeman, with LinkedIn, agreed to join us. He's speaking here and, of course, attending as well. So we get to hear Mark's story and pick his brain. As always, remember, if you've got questions or comments, or Mark, if you know Mark from 10 years ago and you both worked on a project together, you can say, yo, what's up, Mark? If you've got a question, you are welcome to ask a question of Mark. You can just throw it in the comments, just like here's this like fake StreamYard one, boom, just like that. And we will absolutely take your questions, your comments. And oh yeah, you're going to have fun. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this will be great.
Mark, you've had a storied career. I was introduced to you, I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago at some conference. Our mutual friend, John Lewis, said, that's my friend, Mark. We do some business together and he's a great guy. Can you fill us in a little bit on your career journey, how you got into food service?
Yeah, sure.
And now at LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah. I started my career in restaurants, actually. Back in the day when I was in high school, I started in the dish room, right, at a restaurant, and it was a daunting task because the dishes are never done, and so you're always there. But for some reason, it was fun and it was exciting, and it was there was a lot of energy in the kitchen. The personalities of the chefs and the waitresses and how they all interacted together, and then you had rushes and you had downtime, and it was just all this energy. And I just thought, man, this is fun. This is and I was young and had my eyes wide open, and so I started in restaurants, and then I did some through first parts of my college career. I managed some restaurants while I was in college, and again enjoyed the energy and all that sort of thing. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll make this my career. And so I went to Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, and they have a hotel and restaurant program there. And so I thought I'd go learn a lot about hotels. And at the time, hotels were pretty exciting. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll make a career out of this. And I always tell everyone that I got a good social education at WSU. I learned how to party. I learned how to, engage with people and all that sort of thing. But I didn't get much of a regular education. And so I spent a couple of years trying to get through that piece of it. And then I decided, this is not for me. And I had a friend who was running a pizza restaurant. And so he said, hey, well, come and get rich making pizzas. And so I thought, okay, I'll go do this. And I didn't get rich making pizzas, but I learned a lot about me, and I was ready for education and learning more. And so I decided to go back to college.
Okay.
I went back to kind of an old hippie college in Olympia, Washington, called the Evergreen State College. And I went, at WSU, it was classes of 300, 400 people. And, you kind of could sit in the back and be, anonymous. I went to Evergreen, and I was in a class of 9. Wow. And it's hard to hide in a class of 9. And so I really had to kind of buck up and really know what I was doing. And so I spent some, good quality time at Evergreen. And then, as happens, you get to the end of your college career and it's like, oh man, now I got to get a job, And so I thought, well, I know food, so I'll stay with food.
Yep.
And so I went to the college food service at Evergreen, and it was run by a company called Saga Food Service. And Saga had a name in the industry at the time. And so I hired on with them, and the first thing they did, you don't work in a in the college necessarily. They sent you off to a 3-week training in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So I immediately went to Kalamazoo, Michigan,
Okay.
and did the training there with Saga, and then they assign you to an account as you're kind of finishing up the training. And I came back to Western Washington University in Bellingham.
Love Bellingham. So beautiful.
Well, it was kind of an interesting time because while I was at the training in Kalamazoo, I was also planning my wedding. And so I got back, 3 days later, I was married, and then we were off to Bellingham. And interestingly enough, I wasn't there very long. We were there for probably a month, and then they moved me to Seattle. So I thought, okay, we kind of signed on with this idea of an adventure, and so it became an adventure right away. And so I moved to Seattle Pacific University and ran the dining program there, and then they shipped me off to Spokane, Washington, and so for the next probably 20 to 25 years, I was all over the U.S. Feeding college kids, right, as a contractor. And also what happened is that Saga became Marriott. So I worked for Marriott for a while, and then Marriott sold it to Sodexo. So Sodexo then picked up all of the accounts that had. So I went through all those transitions in that period of time.
Wow.
And then, then by that time I had a family, started to have a family. And so it was like, my priorities had shifted a bit. And so I wanted to be home a little bit more than what the demands of college food service was. And so I started to look at corporate food service and thought, wow, this is cool. So I jumped to the corporate world. And it was kind of like I died and gone to heaven because I was 2 meals a day, 5 days a week. And so it was like, this is great. I have nights off. I have weekends off. It was pretty nice. And so, again, I got reacquainted with my family, and then then we had an opportunity to I was stationed for my first job with corporate was in Salt Lake City. Ran the American Express account there, and then this job at Hewlett Packard came up in Corvallis, Oregon, and so we went to Corvallis, and I love Corvallis. It's a college town, and I worked for HP there. We had they manufactured the ink pens that you put into the printers, and so there was, I don't know, probably 7,000 or 8,000 people there, and again it was a fun gig, I don't know, first time I ever fed 10,000 people. We did a picnic for HP, and that was a big journey, and we kind of put some creative flips on it, and it was a fun gig. And then the client actually got promoted, and so they were looking for someone to backfill her in her position, and they reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to be on the client side instead of the contractor side? So I thought, sure, this would be great. I don't have to worry about, cashiers coming to work and cooks throwing knives in the kitchen and all the things that go along with kitchens. So I jumped ship and became the client at Hewlett Packard. And it was an interesting time at HP because Dave Packard had just passed away, and so there was this shift in culture, what I consider to be culture. Carla Fiorina came in as the CEO, and I enjoyed kind of her philosophy because she took everything global. And so I was the food guy for HP. And so I then got to be able to travel, which was kind of a new adventure for me. And I honestly learned a ton about, what goes on in the rest of the world related to food and some of the contractual things and all that happens. And so I learned a lot with that. And then Carly, in her dear wisdom, decided to purchase Compact, and so Compact and HP merged together. And interestingly enough, when that happens, what happens is that there's two infrastructures, and you don't need two infrastructures. And so I actually was laid off for a while, and it gave me an opportunity to reflect on what was important to me, and decide what I wanted to do. And obviously I wanted to stay in the food, and so I thought, well, I'll get a better job than what I had at HP. And I looked for jobs, and of course that didn't pan out. And so then it was like, okay, how am I going to get the same job? And that didn't pan out. So then it was like, I need a job. Okay, and so I ended up becoming a consultant. Back in the college and university world, I worked for David Porter in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And so my son was finishing his senior year in high school, and so the family stayed in Corvallis, and I moved to Baltimore for a year to be this consultant. And the reason that I went there was, again, I was getting along in years and thinking about retirement. I thought, when I retire, I'll be a consultant. And so this would be a great opportunity for me to get a skill and learn the skill. And I quickly realized that consulting was not what I wanted to do. It's a hard business. You're either doing work or trying to find work.
Yeah.
And there's this, I felt when I was with HP, I had this comfort that I was going to get a paycheck, and I knew how much I was going to get, and I had healthcare, and I had all this stuff. And when you're in this constantly moving consulting world, it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I learned a lot with David. I learned a ton about me and how I needed to be able to, when I had a position, I needed to be able to defend that position, right? And so, so I learned that I needed to know what I was talking about and be able to talk about it to a client or to a customer. And so a lot of learning was going on there, but again, I wasn't happy. I didn't know, I didn't like consulting. I didn't, it just wasn't me. And so I kind of started looking around a little bit, and I had a really good friend who was, again, relationships and through SHFM, had a friend who said, I'm getting ready to leave Microsoft, and you would be a great candidate. Why don't you send me your resume? And so I did, looking at it as a way, kind of a way out of this consulting thing. And with big corporations, it takes forever. And so it was probably a 3 or 4 month process to go. I went through, over and over again, these interviews, and I had to do a presentation and all this sort of thing. But anyway, ended up getting into Microsoft, and it was fun. But this was one of those premier jobs in the corporate world, and I thought, well, this is great. I'll just put my feet on the desk and watch this thing go, right? But it really wasn't like that. It was there was some issues with the contractor, and so we started to really kind of peel the onion and dig into it, and we ended up pretty much replacing the whole management team on the supplier side that was there, and they brought in a lot of new people, and so we kind of started a whole new situation, and that really worked out well. And I mean, Compass Group was our provider. They did a phenomenal job of bringing in some great people, and actually got to a point where within a 2-year period, Compass became the premier contractor of the year, which is an award that Microsoft gives because of the work that they had done with the food program. So it turned out to be pretty good.
Good for them.
So I spent 13 years at Microsoft, had a great opportunity, great time there. It was fantastic. We got into some really crazy things having to do with data. We got into growing our own food with grow towers and lettuce and herbs and that sort of thing. And then infusing technology into that, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, so then again, I decided that I've been there 13 years. It was time maybe for me to retire. And I knew I wasn't completely done, but I just thought, I need a break from Microsoft, and so I did. In the time that I had given notice, and the time that I was leaving. It was probably a good 6 weeks or something like that. I got a call from Ford Motor Company, and they were looking for somebody to come in and run their global food operation. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe this will work. And so I signed on with Ford. I was retired for about 4 hours, and I started working in Dearborn. I never left my residence in Seattle, so I was commuting to Dearborn probably 1 week a month for 2 years. I stayed at Ford. And then, through the COVID exercise, I again learned a lot with Ford about manufacturing, about engineering, and all the things that go along with food, with relationship to that. And so I just decided, this COVID thing, I'll retire again, right? And so I did. This time I lasted about 4 months, so I'm not sure I really understand the concept of retirement, but LinkedIn called, and so I considered it. I was looking at possibly starting my own business, doing some entrepreneurial type things, and I thought, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I know. This is sort of my comfort level. So I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go and do this for a while and see how it goes. And I told myself, if it's not fun, I'm pulling out. And so far it's been really fun. And so so I've been at LinkedIn just over a year and a half, and loving it. So
Mark, what a journey!
Yeah, it's been fun.
Our friend Christine, Christine Guillot.
Mm-hmm.
Christine is saying the best tour ever was with Mark at Microsoft. And consulting is hard business.
Oh, yes, it is. It's completely over the top hard. Like I said, I learned a ton about what I don't want to do, and how comforted I was to get back into the corporate world at Microsoft. And we were doing some cool stuff, and I guess my position at Microsoft was, I took a lot of people's ideas and incorporated them into Microsoft. And what I wanted to be able to do is do a little bit of a payback. So I invited people in to see what we were doing, so that they could take what I was doing and put it into their organization and maybe better it, and then I could steal it again. And but all of that helps the industry grow, right? And so that was my position there. And we did some really cool stuff with, like I say, with growing. I had grow towers. I had grow towers in China. I had grow towers in Australia, in Israel, and I was monitoring them. I was watching the lettuce grow from a Surface tablet in Redmond, Washington, and being able to send somebody to them when they needed nutrients or when they needed water. And all of this was these Microsoft developers who just saw something and wanted to digitize it, connect it to the cloud, and do all kinds of stuff with it. And so it was really, really entertaining. And that's just one aspect of what the excitement was at Microsoft. I mean, we got into predictive analytics. So we were taking data off of our cash registers and putting it with traffic data, weather data. I put in moon phases. I did bring out all this different data. And we got it to a point where we could start to predict how many people would come into the cafe tomorrow at a 96% accuracy rate. So we were, and that was just tomorrow. We got it to 94%, 30 days out. And then, what I was pushing for was how many people are coming in 6 months out. And when you start to do that, again, we were big into growing and farmers and local farms and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, if I can predict how many tomatoes I need 6 months from now, I can tell the farmer to plant on this day at the right moon phase and whatever, to be able to then give me the best, highest nutrient, freshest tomato hitting my loading dock when I'm going to use it, right? And it also works from a zero waste standpoint, to be able to then, if I know what I'm going to use, then I don't have to order extra, or it takes waste out of the model. So we got into, just like I say, a lot of crazy different things at Microsoft, and it was really, really cool to be a part of that and do the stuff with that, right? So it was fantastic. I just loved it.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, there was all kinds of stuff like that, and it took me into a lot of, kind of crazy areas, if you will. We got because we had IoT devices on our growing machines. We could put them pretty much anywhere, and they were connected to the cloud. And for some odd reason, it was at a conference actually. I came for the Slow Food Conference here in Denver, and I went out to a bison ranch here in Westminster actually.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on the Alan Savory. I don't know if you're just Alan Savory is a land use guru. Anyway, I went out to his ranch and saw the bison, and I met these people, and they said one of the problems they have is keeping track of the bison. And so I said, well, let's put an IoT device on the bison, and then we can track them whatever they do. And so I ended up speaking at a bison conference in Denver, talking about technology to connect the bison to the cloud.
Oh my
gosh!
gosh.
And surprisingly enough, everybody kind of got interested in that. And at the end of the conference, they all wanted me. They said, to really understand bison, you should own one. And so they took me down to an auction, and the whole auction was wired because the guy from Microsoft was in the crowd, right? And and so I raised my paddle, and of course nobody bid against me. Yeah, so I ended up getting two bison. Buffy and Lola live out here in Westminster, and now they've had babies, so I'm a grandpa on the bison.
Congrats!
Thank you. And anyway, so I got into the whole bison thing, and then that took me into the Native Americans and how the Native Americans are connected to the bison and all of so I went, and I also got hooked up with the USDA. So I did some stuff in Washington, D.C. talking about growing and then bison, and actually went out to the Standing Rock Indian Reservation and met with the natives. And again, all of that was because I was all this energy that was going on at Microsoft. So it was a fun gig. It really was a fun gig.
Are you someone who's curious by nature? Because it seems to me that there's a curiosity that leads to, because it just keeps leading to leading to leading to leading to.
That's right. Yeah, I call it opening doors. We put up these plants, and then the engineers came in and said, what can we do with this? So it opened another door, and there was 3 or 4 doors, and I opened another door, and then there's a whole plethora of doors. So I ended up opening all these doors to step into something new, and I never knew really where it was going to take me, but I was excited about knowing the unknown, if you will, and then just listening and really having some smart people that know things that I don't, and just allowing them to get creative with doing what it is they do to be able to, dream what I dream, right? So yeah, I guess I am curious by nature, but it's always fun to kind of open up those doors.
I think it's awesome that you would put it out there, and then there's a team of people with a different skill set, and they can walk right through it, and it makes them start churning, and that leads to other things that you probably don't know about.
Exactly.
It's funny, we were just saying hi. We are at the SHFM conference. Carolyn is here somewhere, live from FHFM in the glass conference room. Yes, we are. We have a whole crew of people outside us.
Hello.
So fun. What's this? I think this is Christine. Opening doors and not knowing where they'll lead. You know what, Christine? Yeah, I think that's one of the funnest things. I mean, listening to Mark's story, just being like, wow, look, there's another door there that I never even considered. Yeah. There's doors that are all over the place for us to open that we don't know they're there if we're not looking for them. And oftentimes the way we start looking for them is just by opening one, and it leads to another, and leads to another, and leads to another.
Well, and part of it is listening too. You gotta go through the door and listen to what's on the other side of that door, right? And being open to be able to pull out those things that may be an advantage, or maybe something that could work for you
I'm going great.
There we are.
We're back. I think we're back. Okay, Mark. Outside of food service, you for fun. You sound you're someone who's in different places, and you've got a lot of creative energy, and you run a food service at a global company. Do you have time for things outside of work?
Yeah, I do. I'm a woodworker, so I like to work with wood. That kind of I had, prior to woodworking, I was a sailor. So I was out on a sailboat, and in the Pacific Northwest, sailing is fantastic because you're not on the open water with the big waves. Everything's pretty flat and it's calm. And so I took up sailing, ended up really getting into it. And the reason that I did and enjoyed that is because it completely took me away from my job. I had to pay attention to the wind. I had to pay attention to the boat, the lines, everything that was going on. And so I was completely focused on that. Same thing with woodworking. You know, when I go out to my shop, it's like I'm done with everything, and I focus in on what I'm working on and how I'm going to fix this and move that and screw this and do all those kinds of things, right? And so it just takes me, and it's refreshing. Then when I come out of the shop, once I get all the sawdust off of me, then I'm refreshed, and I go back to, and it helps me with getting ideas and formulating ideas about situations that I have at work. So it's a mind clearer for me. So yeah, totally.
This is random. First of all, have you ever met Argyle Campbell?
I have not.
He owns Cambro.
Okay.
You've got Cambros.
Yep.
And I interviewed Argyle 2 months ago, and he's a huge sailor.
Yeah.
Side note, we can never connect you. Secondly, my wife and I, 18 years ago, honeymooned at Orcas Island.
Uh-huh.
And we're staying at a little bed and breakfast called the Inn at Ships Bay, if you're watching. And the Discovery Channel happened to be there doing videos, filming a series on newlyweds. They came up to us at breakfast. We're having our granola. They're like, "Are you newlyweds?" And we're like, "As a matter of fact." So they took us out on a sailboat.
Oh, cool.
For the day. And they're like, "Hey, it's all on us. Just come hang." We got to go on a sailboat around Orcas Island. It was side note. A lot of side notes.
Yeah, sailing is fun. I've sailed. I sailed out of Greece. I've sailed out of, out in the Caribbean, and just like I said, it's a mind clearer. But I haven't sailed in quite a while. I just kind of moved into woodworking, and I kind of enjoyed that. So it's really great.
We're here at SHFM. You're going to do a little speaking while you're here. I'm sure people love hearing the doors that you're opening.
Hopefully.
And you're a past president. Talk about them. Why has SHFM been so impactful for you? Why is it a place that you've chosen to invest energy and time?
Yeah, I got into SHFM, I guess, 25, 26 years ago. And again, it's a corporate food service organization. And like I said, I was in colleges and universities. And so I always heard about SHFM, or at the time it was SFM. Oh. And so I went to one of the conferences while I was still in the college world, just to see what it was all about. And then when I switched from colleges and I went into the corporate world to feed, then it became a resource for me to be able to learn about and meet people that were in the industry that had knowledge. And so I grasped that. But that's how I got in. And then I one of the things that I did, they're waving at us here. But anyway, one of the things that I did is continually, I was one of those that sat in the back of the room and watched and engaged a little bit. But then I decided, well, maybe it's time to maybe get more involved in it. And so I had a friend who had a friend who had a friend, and I ended up getting on the board. And again, that was a good thing for me. I didn't know it at the time, but it actually helped me personally in that I was deathly afraid of public speaking. And so it was like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity to engage at a deeper level with my fear of public speaking. And so they encouraged me at the time to become the treasurer, which then becomes the president-elect, becomes the president. And so, I had this 2-year period to really kind of get my head around it. And so I did, and that was one of the really positive things that came out of being president, was that I still, you still get concerned about going on stage, but it isn't anything like it was before. And I started to feel comfortable being on stage. And so from a personal standpoint, SHFM has really helped me. And it happened to be that my year, which was 2013, was the year that we moved from SFM to SHFM. So I introduced the H to and it was a big deal at that point, because hospitality was something that we saw coming. And it was like, this is something we need to embrace and be here for the industry to be able to grasp. And so the board actually I said, let's do that next year. And they said, no, let's do that this year. And so I leaned in on that. And again, my fear is when you change a name like that, people don't grasp it. And, here we are, however many years later, and we're still using the SHFM logo and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's great. And I consider it family. I mean, I know all these people, and once a year they come together and you talk about old times and new times, and and meet new people. And the thing I like about SHFM now is that I'm seeing a lot of young people coming in.
Yeah.
It's always the old people that were there with the stories and all that, and now I see the young people coming in and starting their own stories and engaging and so yeah, SHFM is a good association for sure.
Have a sip of water, please. In terms of you've been at LinkedIn for about a year and a half. What's something fun there that you're working on, or how many folks do you serve a day? I don't even know how many folks LinkedIn serves.
Yeah, we're doing we measure. So LinkedIn is 100% subsidized, so it's free to the workers.
Okay.
And so it's hard. There's no POS. There's no way to count them as they come in. Right. And so what we do is count plates. And right now, post COVID, we're doing probably close to 10,000 plates a day.
Wow.
In just in Sunnyvale, California, where our headquarters is, and then we've got, in China, we're feeding about 90% of our workforce, and then it's spread over the rest of the world in sporadic. Some places it's really slow. Some people, they're starting to come back, and so that it's kind of been an interesting shift to see how people do return to the office. But yeah, it's a great place to work. I enjoy it. I love the culture. It's like they're concerned about the employee. They're concerned about how the employee engages. It's like just time off. I mean, I got hired right after a 1-week break in April, because they wanted some help they wanted you to take time off for your mental health, right?
Wow.
And so right after that, I came on, and then in the middle of July we had a week off, where the whole company takes a week off, and then we're just heading into the holidays, and the week between Christmas and New Year's is a week off. And really, when you take vacation, your email never stops, right? Yep. But when the whole company takes a vacation, you can disconnect, right?
Amazing.
And so it's that kind of culture that I really, really enjoy and love about LinkedIn right now.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it was great.
What a gift! I've never even considered that. Have the whole company take off?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, and again, it was important to the mental health, and it works. It just works. I mean, I spend a week in my wood shop, so
so great.
Yeah, it's great.
Finish this statement. I'm happiest when
I'm in my wood shop.
That's your place.
Yeah, that's my place. I love it out there, and I can be creative. I can follow a pattern and do something. I made tables. I made our dining room table. I made Adirondack chairs, or I can just go in and say I'm going to do something, and fiddle with it and play with it and get it either to work or not work. But it's that creativity that I really enjoy. So yeah, that's my place.
I love it. Oftentimes, Mark, we learn, we talk about this a lot. The Food Service Power Plant Network was born in a time of challenge. It was born in COVID.
Yep.
And oftentimes we learn what we're made of. When we have to figure out how we're going to get through times of challenge. Was there something in your experience that you got through that you're like, I learned a lot in that period of time. It wasn't the easiest. It might not have been the funnest, but I learned about who I am, and then I've got what it takes.
Yeah, I think as I spoke of when I was unemployed between HP and Porter, it was, I guess, one thing that I realized is that at that point in time that I had not networked as much as I should have. And networking, when you're looking for a job, networking is huge.
Yep.
Because somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, right? And so again, that's where SHFM came in, is that the networking, and I got more involved in that's what drove me to get more involved in SHFM at the time. And so yeah, I learned a ton about relationships, and and making sure that you understand those relationships, and how they can maybe potentially help you or hinder you even down the road. But anyway, yeah, to me it was this eye-opening thing about people, and how you need to work with people and understand people, and I did a lot of internal looking at that point in time too. But yeah, it was hard at the time, but you make it through it and come out on the other end by opening those doors.
I think that lesson about networking is a word I used to be afraid of. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm kind of an introvert by nature.
Yep,
and I was like, I don't really want to just go meet. I don't know how to go do this and not feel awkward or whatever it is. But then the more people at the first timers thing today that I did earlier, that you sit at a table or suppliers meeting, and then you just start saying, hey, I'm so-and-so. And then I start seeing those faces, and then we connect.
That's right.
And then you're right. And then that leads to another one. And someone came up to me today and says, hey, so-and-so said I should meet you. And so those are the gifts, because you're right. Because in times of challenge, or if you're ready for a change, you've got an army of people that all happen to be about 50 feet beyond the computer right now.
That's right.
We're here to support you and have your back.
Yes.
3 things on your bucket list.
Wow, 3 things. Wow, that's I don't have a real strong bucket list.
Okay.
Like I said, I kind of take it as it comes. Again, I want to continue to learn more and more about the tools that I work with in the shop. I'm always afraid of the router, and I'm always afraid of the planer or the joiner or whatever. So, and I'm not a big detail person, and so it causes me to go into details. So I suppose that would be a bit of a bucket list thing. I don't know if it is, but I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit in my job, and so going to some far places of the world is, I think I'm enjoying more just kind of being at home. And
love it.
We're in the middle of a remodel at our home now, and so it's like the bucket list is to make sure that the grout gets into the to the tile and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I approach it. I don't have the big wish list, I guess, because I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things, right?
Pretty awesome.
Just kind of stay involved in whatever's happening at the time.
I love it, Mark. This is I think, Jim Pixley. Jim's great interview. Got to sign off. Thank you, Jim. Thanks for joining us. This is someone on LinkedIn. Sorry, I can't see you. It's motivational to hear how you've been in many different aspects of food service, yet still in the industry, place that's fun for you and growing off that.
Yeah, no question about it. And I told myself, like I said, this is I've retired twice now. And so I told myself, if I'm not having fun, I'm done. And so far, anyway, we've had some great times at LinkedIn, gone through some ups and downs, but still it's fun. Yeah. It's fun. And I enjoyed the people, again, the young people especially. And that's, at Microsoft, the age of the employee was, I think the average age was like 30. And I think it's very similar, even less than that at LinkedIn. And so, there's all this energy around young people and how they think and how they dream and how they do things. And so that energizes me. And so yeah, I'm having fun. I'm having
Love
fun.
it. I think we need to find a new word for you the next time you want to retire. I don't know what it's going to be, but retirement doesn't seem to be working. That word.
I'd like to say I haven't figured it out yet.
So great. Mark, we end I don't know if you've seen any of these interviews, but we end at the end with something we call encouraging words.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So I happen to know a couple friends of yours who said, here's what Mark has meant to me. And we don't often hear it. People don't necessarily take the time, or we're not in a conversation where it happens all that much. You don't say, hey, have I made a difference in your life? And so hopefully this is a little bit of a gift, but a few friends, and I'm going to start with Z the cook. Z connected me with a few friends. Charlie Serrata connected with your friends. And I'm going to read from just a few people that you've influenced.
Yeah, sure.
To let you know the difference you're making.
Okay.
Russ Benson.
Yes, I know Russ really well.
In
fact, he's right out there.
Is he really?
Yeah.
No way. I need to meet him. I've known Mark for 15 years, and I've learned and laughed a lot along the way. He's been an industry trailblazer from which many have been influenced by his success and his commitment to excellence. I'm proud and I'm privileged to call Mark both a professional and a personal friend.
Wow.
How cool, huh?
That is cool. Yeah, Russ is a good friend, really good friend. Like he said, we've laughed a lot and had some good times. And he's part of this family right here at SHFM. So that's great.
Love it. Can't wait to meet him.
Awesome.
Z the cook. Mark ignites powerful energy in the world by challenging people. He's a leader with the answers, but he doesn't spill his secrets so easily. By using this approach, an energy is born that encourages those around him to find the answers they seek within themselves. That's beautiful, Z. Mark is serious, direct, and yet so compassionate and caring. An innovator, dreamer, creative, someone I consider the godfather of the hospitality and food service industry. Every time I express a new big dream to Mark, he surprises me by telling me to dream even bigger. Think, question, process, assess, imagine, dream, on and on. I feel honored to hold a space in Mark's life made of friendship, mentorship, respect, and empowerment. Mark, thank you for leaving a positive mark on every heart you touch. Because of you, mine has turned to gold.
Well, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I mean, Z, I mentored Z a little bit, and I didn't. Again, I don't give her the answers. I want her to be empowered to bring the answers forward to herself, and she does. She does a great job. So
beautiful.
She's good.
Dale Ray. The third thing I notice about Mark, after his tall stature and his great hair,
yeah, my great hair, right? Yeah.
Love the ponytail, was his kindness and his willingness to help and support people. I have not met a more well-known, respected, and humble individual in all the B&I food service. I met Mark when MSFT acquired LinkedIn, and he was still at MSFT, and I was still at LinkedIn. Our first meeting was at an MSFT RFP in China, and Mark invited me to join him to gain understanding of that market.
Yeah.
Over the next 5 years, we grew as colleagues and became what I would consider very good friends. Mark has been instrumental in introducing to so many people in the business, networking.
Yep.
And when Mark endorses you, people listen and he pushes me to get more involved. At the end of the day, the one thing we cannot have enough of is kindness, support, and humility, characteristics that Mark exudes daily. Mark, I am very grateful to call you a friend. I love you, man.
Oh yeah, he's a good one. Yeah, Dale. And for those of you who don't know Dale, he's huge. He's bigger than I am, and he's buff, a lot buffer than I am, and he exercises and he's a great person, great strong person, and it's just wonderful to hear his accolades, I guess, because we are good friends, and he's very open to ideas and that sort of thing. And so I really like Dale. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Love it. Yeah. Last is from someone, this is always fun for me when you mention a friend, Steve Follett. This was by Charlie Serrata with NAFM. Charlie reached out to me and said, I think Mark and Steve are friends. You might reach out.
Really close friends.
Mark is a wonderful friend who started out as a potential customer, developed into a customer, and through the process became one of my closest friends in the industry. We worked together on the SHFM board when Mark was the president of the association and famously led the charge to add the H for hospitality to the SFM nomenclature. His leadership, creativity, and passion for his work were all strong characteristics of Mark's personality that came to work with him every day. And he also brought them into his free time, as I was also blessed to experience with Mark on the golf course on a day of wine tasting outside of Seattle at numerous dinners together. Yes. I always left my times with Mark infected with his enthusiasm for work and play. It's been a privilege working and playing with Mark over the years, and I'm honored to call him a lifelong friend.
Yes, Steve is a lifelong friend. He's awesome. I appreciate that. That's quite unexpected, but thank you for all that and reaching out to those people, because those are important people in my life for sure.
And clearly you've made a difference. That's the whole goal of these conversations. Yeah. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you. You've made a difference in so many lives. For those of you watching, thank you for joining us tonight. We're so glad you could be with us. Who's this? We got Alyssa Johnson. This is so inspirational. I love this. Alyssa, thanks for joining us. David Maxwell, enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, guys. David in North Carolina, yo, brother. We're glad you're with us. Listen, whatever you're going through, keep opening doors. Here's a Zena Dater. Have a great night, Zena. Have a great night in Oklahoma City. I think for me, that's one of my greatest takeaways. The curiosity and the energy. I'm going to use these words. He loves the word energy, right?
Yep.
That comes by opening a door and stoking that curiosity to see where that leads and finding new unexpected woods. I bet when you started, from consulting to wherever you you didn't know where that was. You didn't know you were going to own 2 bison and now be a grandfather of bison, whatever the dirt would be.
That's right.
But you did, because you kept going. So whatever that is, I think it was, Einstein that said, to keep the bike moving, to stay on the bike, you got to keep moving.
That's right.
Keep moving. Stay curious.
Velocity.
Be curious. Let that energy roll. Listen, from Mark and I to you, thanks for joining us. If you're in a particularly tough spot right now, hey, keep going. Of course you are. Keep moving. Keep that energy. Ask yourself, what am I curious about right now? Maybe it's woodworking. I don't know. Maybe it's doing work in China. Maybe it's working at LinkedIn. I have no idea what that is. A place where you can go and they give you weeks off to take care of your mental health. You go be you. From all of us here in Denver at SHFM. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us.